Hello and welcome to Low Budget Gaming and welcome to another Steam Autumn Sale video. So the sale is about to end. We have a couple more days. And this one here is a list of my favorite games. So these are games I've played. Most of them I've completed more than once probably, but I have spent a lot of time playing these games. I'll also do like a mini review to give you some of the pros and cons of each of them. So let's begin first with Darkest Dungeon. So in my opinion, this game is closest thing to chess in video game form, apart from chess actually. So this is a game where you go into deep dark dungeons. It's turn-based combat, but it's very straightforward but also very difficult. So unlike other games, here you have to also manage the stress levels of your heroes, because normally you get hit and there's a health damage to your character, armor damage, whatever, and then you heal that. In this game you have to also manage the stress, because these guys are going down into deep, scary, horrifying dungeons facing unspeakable horrors. So they have an added layer of stress and you have to manage that in different ways as well. Very interesting game, very amazing narration in this game, great replayability, but also very hard. And hard is not as such a negative. In my opinion, the negative here is the lack of proper tutorials, like basic tutorials. I made a video on the other channel just going over the basics of how to play the game, and it has gotten a lot of views because the main game doesn't do a great job explaining the basics. Anyway, I love this game. There's a sequel out as well. I haven't even played much of that. I still keep coming back to the first game. So this one here, the base game, is 80% off, $5, $220 in India, $419 in the UK, $650 in Canada. There's the Ancestral Edition, which includes a lot of the DLCs. Basically, you get a few free DLCs. You get Butcher Circus. This is the PvP mode. The Musketeer is like class, a hero class. Then you have Crimson Court, which is another area, DLC area. I would say this is for later. Shieldbreaker is another class, useful class. And you have Color of Madness, which is another DLC. So I would say get the base game and pick up the Shieldbreaker. That is all you need. You don't even need the Shieldbreaker, but if you get the Shieldbreaker, you'll have the full set. And then once you get the hang of the game, you can get Color of Madness and the Crimson Court. Or if this isn't too expensive, you can pick up the Ancestral Edition and get the whole thing. Next is Graveyard Keeper. So I call this Stardew Valley's darker cousin. So there's some dark humor. Instead of a farm, you have a graveyard. So you have to manage that. So basically, you're just a normal guy. You're going somewhere and something happens, let's say, and you end up in a fantasy medieval village and everybody recognizes you as the new graveyard keeper. So you have to manage the graveyard, manage the church around it, upgrade everything, improve the gravestones. Initially, you start with like building wooden markers and gravestones, and then you upgrade to stone and then marble and stuff like that. There's a bit of a story going on as well, multiple characters in the town. The only downside I would say with this one is there's a lot of back and forth you have to do with the town and everything. So there are ways, like you get speed potions is something you can make and then move. I really enjoyed this game. I think I put in like 70-80 hours into this game. Completed the main game. They've also added some DLCs. And there's a lot of puns and humor involved here. One or two things, like they had like a big crafting tree here with a lot of things to do. I did not explore this in detail. Like I just did the stuff that was required to get everything going, but there's a lot more here. So that might be the only downside here. Otherwise, fantastic game. Very easy to get into. So the base game here is 75% off. $5, $220 in India, $418 in the UK, $649 in Canada, $41,500 in the Philippines. There's the Last Journey edition, which is like the complete edition. So basically they added 3 DLCs, which is Stranger Sins, Game of Thrones, Better Safe Soul. So you can already see, judging by the names, these are puns on popular TV shows. Next we have Black Mesa. Black Mesa is a full remake of the original Half-Life game. Only differences here is graphically it's better. They also added more content in the final 4 chapters. So if you're familiar with the Half-Life, the final 4 chapters in the original were probably a little short. They've added more content here. The downsides I would say here, not many, but I felt some of the early levels were shortened a bit and a bit easier, and the final 4 chapters, they made them a little too long in my opinion. Like when I was playing and streaming this game, I could feel the parts that were made by Valve and were improved by these guys, and then the parts they added themselves, I felt like they didn't mesh as well. Overall, it's still a fantastic product, and you can see overwhelmingly positive reviews, but that was like the only slight criticism. 80% off, 105 in India, $4, 299 pounds, 439 in Canada, 299 in the Eurozone. Half-Life 2, so this is the original Half-Life 2, not a remake, and surprisingly still holds up very well graphically. Came out in 2004, overwhelmingly positive. As you can see, there's even a demo, very cheap. I don't really have anything negative to say about this one. 90% off, 48 rupees only, 99 cents, 85 pence, 129 in Canada. Gears 5, so another interesting game. I'm not a huge fan of Halo or any of these big franchises, but I kind of liked this one. Had a semi-open world sort of look. I mean, you don't have like proper open world, but you go into areas with big maps, different areas. And overall, it was a nice game, graphically very good, story was interesting, actions and pieces were interesting as well. So overall, the campaign was really good. I did not bother with the multiplayer, and I would recommend you get this for the single player. 75% off, 224 in India, $10, 874 in the UK, 12.49 in Canada, and 10 euros. Now the regional pricing has gone up for the Halo games, but this is still on the old price. Halo is now even on sale is like 800 something. This one here is 224. So if you were interested, this is a big AAA game, well made, great game. You can pick up for next to nothing. Next is Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition. So this is another GTA style game set in Hong Kong, and yeah, really fun game, a lot of action, driving around. The only thing I would say is play this with a controller, because this is not designed for keyboard and mouse. I've seen a few people play this with keyboard and mouse and they kind of struggled. So just get a basic controller and you'll be fine. 85% off, 109 in India for the definitive edition, $3, 239 in the UK, 374 in Canada, and 3 euros. Next is Far Cry 3. So probably the template of the modern open world game. This introduced so many interesting things, and when it came out it was fresh and enjoyable. Opening the map, like climbing the towers to open the map, driving around, hunting animals, everything was really good. Negatives. The main character and his friends were unlikable, so you were kind of rooting for the bad guy to kill them all, if I'm honest. Besides that, yeah, there were some silly things like you have to, I don't know, get 3 iguana testicles to make a wallet, which didn't make sense, but that was their way of making you hunt these rare creatures. Also, I feel like later on in the story, the second map was added a bit too late. Like by that time you had enjoyed and explored the first map, and when they gave you the second map, it kind of ended the main story quickly. So unless you still had a lot of side things to do, you were pretty much done at that point. So they could have added that a little earlier. So apart from those minor issues, I think this was a fantastic game. Now this is 75% off, 250 in India, $5, 424 in the UK, 649 in Canada, and 499 in the Eurozone. Initially they used to have different versions, but now this is sort of like the complete version, so you have all the DLC content in this one as well. Next is Titan Quest Anniversary Edition. So one of my favorite ARPGs. I was never into Diablo in the early days, but this was one of the first ARPGs I played, which is kind of inspired by Diablo, to be fair. This has a more ancient Greek setting, and yeah, fantastic game. It still looks and feels well. Of course, some of the UI stuff would look a little dated because originally this is from 2006. They made an anniversary edition after 10 years, improving a lot of things. I don't recall all the NPCs being voiced when I first played it back in 2006, But these days I did try it a few times in the recent years, and I felt like every NPC, every side quest giver, they were talking. So I don't think that was the case early on. So as you can see, the community and the updates have been fantastic. They have added more DLCs, and I think this is the weak part here, especially the newer ones. At Eternal Embers, you can see is mixed. Atlantis is also mixed, and Ragnarok seems to be positive. So these DLCs were added a good decade after the original game. So yeah, these probably are not as good, but still the main game should be fantastic. It is the base game, and there was like a full game length expansion that was added like a year later in 2007 or something. So that original core game is still fantastic. Next is Need for Speed Most Wanted. So maybe a little bit of a controversial opinion, because the original Most Wanted from 2005 is still considered one of the best. I have it installed on my PC, always there. But I actually didn't mind this one either. Like, it was okay. Like, they removed some of the in-car views and other things, but overall they had a nice selection of cars, and it was fun to play, and you unlock different cars and beat and get on the leaderboard and stuff like that. So yeah, it was quite a bit of fun. I've played this one. It was free from Origin some 6-7 years ago, before I made the YouTube channel. So this is 75% off, $250 in India, $5, $449 in the UK, $674 in Canada, $499 in the Eurozone. Now they have a bunch of DLCs, but the annoying thing is they don't seem to have the DLCs on discount, and I don't know if this is like the ultimate version. It doesn't say it is, because that would include all of this. But yeah, this game is also from 2012, so 11 years old, and if you know, with cars and driving licenses, this might be taken off pretty soon. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. So another game that I mention a lot, and this is a third-person action adventure game with some interesting gameplay mechanics, let's put it that way. And overall, I don't really have much negative to say. It's very intense, might even scare some people. Let's see, negative points. Maybe the FOV was kind of low, because I tried like increasing it, and then it was starting to give me the fisheye effect. So it is definitely made for like the console, where you sit further back from your TV and see it. On PC, it was a bit too close for me. Apart from that, maybe the length isn't particularly long, but overall it is an amazing experience that I think everyone should try. Metro 2033 Redux. So I still feel that the first Metro game is the best of the series. Again, I have not played too much of the final one. I played a little bit, couldn't get into it when I tried it, but the first one was amazing, very intense, and yeah, horror elements, action, first person survival style. Well, not for, it's an FPS, but with survival elements, let's say. And yeah, overwhelmingly positive. This one here is 90% off. Now they did increase the regional pricing recently. However, with a 90% sale, it's still not bad. It used to be like a third of the price, but 150 I think is good enough for this game. It's a very nice game. $199 in the US, $177 in the UK, $274 in Canada, $199 in the Eurozone. Getting over it with Bennett Foddy. So if your life is going well, everything is smooth, you are relaxed and happy, and you just want an unnecessary bit of stress in your life for a little bit, check this out. So you are just a guy in this pot with a hammer, and you have to just climb up. In the meantime, the creator of the game is narrating and irritating the hell out of you. So yeah, it is something to experience if you want to ruin your mood or hate the creator of the game. So this is 60% off, $119 in India, $319 in the US, $231 in the UK, $359 in Canada. The Wolf Among Us. So back in the early 2010s, Telltale made this Wolf Among Us game. Around the same time they made the Walking Dead series, and this only had one season but was amazing from what I recall. This was based on the Fable comic books, where basically um, you have those fairy tale creatures living in New York, modern day New York, and they use disguises to appear human. So a lot of these, like the main guy here is the big bad wolf from the fairy tale. You have Snow White, you have a lot of other creatures and fairy tale people living, and the big bad wolf is the sheriff trying to keep everyone in check, making sure everybody is in their disguises and stuff like that. And then a series of murders start happening within their community. So that is the whole story of this game. Very, very nice game, very enjoyable. And they are making a sequel. I don't know when it'll come out, but the season 2 is in the works. So this is 60% off, $5.99 in the US, $208 in India, $4.79 in the UK, $7.99 in Canada, $5.99 in the Eurozone. Ryse, Son of Rome, or as I like to call it, Russell Crowe Simulator, because this is pretty much the Gladiator movie, and with some supernatural elements. But yeah, you are playing basically Russell Crowe in many ways with some twists, and despite all of that, it is still pretty fun. Gameplay is kind of straightforward. I would say play on the harder difficulties, because on lower difficulties it just becomes silly. This was from 2013-14 when Xbox One launched. It was a launch title. In those days, QTEs were quite popular, and so this one, the combat is QTE based. That is why I say play on the harder difficulty, where timing is a little more important. Otherwise, on easier difficulties, it's just ridiculous. It's just a movie. So yeah, check this out. It is quite affordable now, and a fun 4 or 5 hour game for the campaign. 65% off, $122 in India, $349, £279, and $4 in Canada. Bullets per minute. So another mention for BPM, bullets per minute. I just love this game. Nice little indie game. You have to be in sync with the background music to jump, reload, and shoot the enemies. And again, in my opinion, playing this game on anything other than the harder difficulty, the hardest difficulty, is a waste of time. You know, when a lot of people keep asking for like an easy mode on games like Dark Souls and stuff like that, this game does have difficulty modes, difficulty settings. And if you try the easy setting, you understand why Dark Souls doesn't have an easy setting. I've only played this on hard. Tried easy, but it was like pointless, so I've always tried playing it on hard. That is where you get the most challenge and satisfaction at the same time. So basically, you are a Valkyrie going through Viking hell. 2 sort of levels per per area, let's say, and there's a boss at the end of each level, procedurally generated, so the rooms and the layouts will be different every time. They also add some fun twists, like sometimes it's upside down, sometimes the floor is glass, so you're just sliding around. They do all this sort of thing, and it just makes it quite interesting. A lot of different weapons, different Valkyries that have different abilities. Some might have like more health, some might have more armor, some might have a better gun, things like that. So this is 75% off, $132 only. So all regional pricing, $5, $387 in the UK, $569 in Canada. Motorsport Manager. So this is a management game where you're managing your racing teams. Multiple disciplines. You have like the normal F1 style, you have endurance series and other sports cars and things like that. I mostly got it for the top one, the F1 style. Now this is not licensed by FIA, so you don't have official names of drivers or cars or stuff. So, but it is close enough, and although this originally came from a mobile game, it is still pretty good and pretty fun to play. Obviously, it's not as hard, or like you can make changes. There are multiple difficulties. What I did was I did a very long playthrough of this, like a let's play of 200 episodes back several years ago. And what I did was I took like a backmarker team and tried to take them to the top and win a championship with them. So every little aspect of managing a team, you have to handle it yourself. So hiring staff, getting drivers, even managing the race or the livery of your car, setting budgets for next season. Like you save a little bit of budget for next season to upgrade your HQ, get a better wind tunnel, get better designers, all sorts of minor things, down to even like managing the race and the qualifying, change of tires. Everything is under your control, maybe more than what a normal team principal would do, but that is the fun part. And of course there are one or two occasions like when it rains you can just destroy everyone, even if you're like the worst team on the grid. But it was fun and I really enjoyed my time playing this game. 85% off, 115 in India, $299, $224 in the UK, $449 in Canada, and $299 in the Eurozone. Guns, Gore, and Cannoli. So this is your stereotypical parody of your mafia films. So you are a gangster Italian in the 1930s. This is the sequel, so it's like him going into Europe and defeating the Nazis. But yeah, he wisecracking gangster guy with like the Italian New York accent and doing that hand gestures and stuff like that. Very fun 2D shooter basically, and it's also playable in co-op. First one is also on sale. This is the second game, 50% off, $209 in India, $649, $514 in Canada and the UK, $724 in Canada. They also made the Warhammer game, Shooters, Blood and Teeth. This was their latest game, so for the full pack you might get a good deal. Next we have Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. Again, two games. This is the first one. This is the first time we got this game. When we played this game, we experienced the Nemesis system for the first time through this one, and it was fantastic. Really fun and entertaining game. Action was really good. The downsides, I would say, is the story isn't particularly great. The open world isn't big enough in my opinion. And once again, the FOV was very low. This was one of the few games that gave me an instant headache because the FOV is very low. It's like 60, 65. So you have to go into settings, INI, and then increase it from there. Or just lean back further, I guess. But yeah, otherwise the game was very enjoyable. So this is this one here. 75% off, $269 in India, $5, £399, $749 in Canada, and €5. Now a new game. This is yet another zombie survivor. So this is a game with the survivor, the vampire survivor style formula, and this is my favorite of this lot. This is a game where up to 3 people you are in a party and you have to kill all the zombies and survive for 20 minutes until dawn basically, and you get upgrades and weapons as you go along. You start with one guy and then you upgrade his weapon, you get another guy, upgrade their weapons, more things, more perks, more abilities. And this is still in early access, but they are constantly adding more stuff. When I first tried it, they only had one map, then they added a second map, more characters. So again, I'm not sure what the latest update is, but they had at least 6 playable characters and at least 2 maps. But they're constantly adding more stuff, and it's not an expensive game to begin with. So 20% off, $799, $384 in India, $680 in the UK, $1039 in Canada. And then finally, another mention for GreedFall. So your old school BioWare style RPG. A lot of talking, a lot of dialogue with and managing different factions, and very flexible in terms of how you deal with everyone. You can be like friendly and get along with everyone, or you could just side with one faction and just fight the others completely. And overall, I really had a great time. About 40 hours roughly to finish the game if you play and do all the missions and side quests and everything. But overall, yeah, I really liked it. Very different to the usual stuff. Semi-open world as well. You don't have like a full open world. So this is 80% off, $319 in India, $7. This is also the newest, a new low for this one. Like it's never been cheaper. $5.99, $9.59 in Canada, and €7. There's also a gold edition with another story DLC, the Deep West Bay Conspiracy. So yeah, that's a look at some of my favorite games that are on sale. Obviously I could have put in another 40-50 games, but this video is long enough as it is. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. I may make one more video for this sale. I have one idea. I may look into making that. But yeah, hopefully this was useful. Thank you for watching. See you next time.